The Florida Gators finally have an offensive coordinator as Russ Callaway has been promoted from co-OC / tight ends coach.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. You're available daily and free wherever the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Monday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can place a $5 bet, and if you win, you get $150 in bonus bets. The Florida Gators announced on Thursday night, maybe Friday, that Russ Callaway was going to be promoted to offensive coordinator full-time. This was not surprising. This was not big news. I feel like it was kind of expected just because last season, the Florida Gators had two co-offensive coordinators, right? It was Rob Sale and Russ Callaway. And we had already been told that Rob Sale was taking the positional title demotion and was just going to be the offensive line coach. He was no longer going to have the co-OC title. Which makes me feel like by default, Russ Callaway has to be considered the offensive coordinator, right? Because you don't have an official OC title. You had two co-OCs. You lost one. He's not co with anybody, right? He's just the OC at that point. He's not a co. So I feel like that's a title change more than anything else, which we've seen Billy Napier especially play with coordinator titles to make money match, whatever it may be. That's fine. But Russ Callaway was defensive line intern in 2022 with the Florida Gators. So Billy Napier's first year. He was with the New York Giants the year prior to that. He was Samford's OC for 4 years and was at Samford for 5 years. And then he was the defensive line intern for Florida Gators in 2022. And then in 2023, he got promoted to tight ends coach after William Peagler left to the Arizona Cardinals, which is actually interesting now that we think about it, because William Peagler was the tight ends coach and left to go be the assistant defensive line coach with the Cardinals. And then Russ Callaway was a defensive analyst intern and then went to be the Florida Gators tight ends coach. So fun little switch there. I don't know. I just noticed it. I know it's irrelevant information, but whatever. And then, so Russ Callaway was the tight ends coach in 2023. Then in 2024, he got promoted to be co-OC / tight ends coach. And now in 2025, he's going to be full-time OC. Billy Napier is still expected to call the plays at this time. But I'm going to continue to hold out hope that, you know, through spring ball and everything, that Russ Callaway gets to call plays in practice and the spring game, and that hopefully Billy makes the right decision and hands over play calling duties, right? And look, I got to say, honestly, I'm fine with Russ Callaway being OC. If he gets the play calling duties, I'd be thrilled. My entire stance on the play calling stuff has not been the scheme is bad. It has not been anything like that, okay? If Russ Callaway comes in and is calling Billy Napier's offense, as in like the offensive system, that's fine by me, honestly. I've got no issues with that. My issue is not with the offensive system. It's not with the offensive scheme. It's with Billy calling plays. I don't think he's good at it. Also, just I'm aware I sound horrible. It's one of the reasons I didn't go live on Saturday night. Is going live when I'm feeling sick. I don't get to sneeze in anything. Here I can edit it if I need to. Yay, great. But so my issue has been Billy calling plays. If he gives that up and it's Russ Callaway, I'm fine with it. I would have loved a Brennan Marion. Although I've said before, like, I don't think that right now Florida's a good fit for him. Just considering probably needs some time there to settle in. And I know if he had the time, would have been fine with like a Willie Korn, who doesn't move me, but would have been fine. I would have gone nuts for Jake Peets. But like I have been saying for months, you can give Russ Callaway play calling duties, and I'm fine with it. I really have no issues with it because, again, my issue is not even the offensive system. It's that Billy has too much on his plate to be a good game day coach and a play caller, or to be a good game day coach and to be a good offensive play caller. You can pick one and be good at it. Let Billy, the head coach, be the head coach. And let Russ Callaway, your offensive coordinator, be the offensive coordinator. Okay? And I understand, yes, he can be offensive coordinator without being the play caller. That's not the relevant part on game day, right? Because the most important duty there is calling plays. So giving up that play calling duty to Russ Callaway would be beneficial for this team, which is why I've said, like, I hope that Billy makes the right decision eventually and hands over play calling duties. It's the winning decision, and that is always what I want. Again, and also, I will say this. For me, I have been incredibly critical of Billy. That has not been secretive. I've not been shy about that. I've been very open about being critical of Billy. It is not that I want Billy fired because I think he's bad. It's that I think that he's not making winning decisions. If you make this winning decision, that changes things, right? Giving up play calling duties is a winning decision. I know that we could talk about going on Twitter and every time Ohio State or Penn State or any other program that's not Florida hires any assistant, they're serious decisions there. They're making serious football moves. That's not how it works, right? This giving up play calling duties is a serious football decision. It's not the big name, flashy one, but guess what? It improves your chances of winning games. And that's what I want to do. If Billy wins games here, I'm happy with it. I'm cool with it. Okay. Russ Callaway has an air raid background, right? He was the OC at Samford for 4 years. They've been an air raid, still an air raid. And I would think that, let's say hypothetically, Russ doesn't call the plays. I would still like to imagine that having a guy as your offensive coordinator who led a lot of offensive meetings last year. I mean, Billy said that in press conferences. He's like, yeah, Russ has led a ton of offensive meetings. Which is not, this revolutionary information that's coming out. But that now that would lead to Russ having even more say in the offense, specifically in the passing concepts. Because one of the things that many people said this offseason was at least hire a passing game coordinator, right? Well, if you've got an offensive coordinator with an air raid background that can realistically implement some more air raid concepts to your offense, that's great. Which, by the way, like, we've already seen a few air raid concepts thrown in. Like, Billy Napier loves that cross from the slot. Very air raidy. Okay, that Y cross is usually the tight end flex, whatever, but very air raidy. I would hope that we see more mesh, more forwards, by the way, which is a thing that, Billy, I feel like not enough people give him credit for this. Billy's called forwards quite a lot throughout his career. It hasn't always worked, and they haven't always been able to get the ball off because of pressure or whatever reason. But Billy at Louisiana spent a lot of time going, hey, deep shot screen, like, that's what we're looking for. If you could hit a dig, you could hit a dig. Great. But hopefully with Russ Callaway, whether or not he's calling plays, we see some of the concepts get a bit more air raidy, which also, I will say this to prepare you mentally already. It is February 24th, and I would like to mentally prepare you this for in August and September and October. You will see multiple plays, probably every game, where every receiver just runs a hitch, right? And you will tag me about it, and you will message me if you're an insider, if you're part of the insider program, at least in the description below if you want to become part of it. But you will message me about all that. That's a very air raid thing. So you're going to continue to see it, okay? All hitches, very air raidy. So you're going to continue to see that. Russ Callaway being the co-OC / tight ends coach and now being promoted to OC, I'm curious if he's going to keep the tight end coach title. Because I know Billy said, like, oh yeah, like, Russ will move around wherever he's needed, but I'm assuming and I'm hoping that means, okay, hire a tight end coach that will still just coach just the tight ends. And hopefully that works out there. I would hate this idea, but it is something that wouldn't shock me if they would try it, if they didn't want to hire a tight end coach, of like tight end analyst, works with tight ends every now and then, But tight ends, when we do blocking things, tight ends are going to be with the offensive line, working on combos with the tackles. And when they're not working on those blocking concepts, they'll be working with wide receivers and running those routes, which, by the way, route tree is not exactly the same. So hopefully there's a difference there. But yeah, I'm hoping for a tight end coach hire and truly allow Russ Callaway to just be a walk around OC, similar to the way that Billy Napier has Ron Roberts being just a walk around DC, not a position title attached to it, just a coordinator, and move on from it. Because now that your coaching staff has no size limit, you can have coordinator walk around. You don't need, oh, he's our OC, but like he needs to be a QB's coach because we can only have 10 coaches. 10 coaches can go on the trail, but you can have as many coaches as you want. So hopefully that'll be a thing that Billy rightfully takes advantage of there. And we'll talk about potential candidates at another day this week, probably. But hopefully that's the thing. We are going to talk about which players benefit the most from this when we get back with Locked On Gators. March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting as hell, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like Walter Clayton threes, beautiful. This week, basketball, you can look at a guy like Jason Tatum, who's just been going absolutely off lately. He's averaging like 29, 8, and 6 or something like that. Like he's just going nuts in that hot streak the Celtics are on. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And with Russ Callaway getting promoted to be the offensive coordinator now, again, not the play caller at this time. I'm going to continue holding out hope until either Billy announces Russ as the play caller or until the start of the season and we see Billy calling plays. I'm just going to keep holding out hope, and I'm going to keep asking Billy. I know you've done a few things that I've suggested on the show. Just going to ask you again. Please give up play calling duties. I'm good with it being Russ, honestly. So, but there are going to be players that benefit from it regardless, right? Like even if he's not calling plays, he's still going to have more of a say in the offense. He's going to have more of a say in offensive meetings. Like we said before, and Billy's said multiple times, that Russ Callaway has led many offensive meetings. Hopefully now Russ will have more say in that and running more of that, and hopefully introducing more of an air raid style, right? With that, a few players really benefit from it, and it's mostly the passing game, right? I don't want to go like, oh yeah, the running game, because the passing game is going to get better, and that's going to free things up for the run game. Sure, but in terms of who just directly benefits from any implementations that Russ Callaway may introduce, it has to be DJ Lagway more than anyone else, right? Again, this is regardless of whether or not Russ is calling plays. If he can introduce some of those passing concepts like a mesh, like a Y cross with an easy read, all hitch, easy read, like you pre-snap, figure out where the DBs are, where you might have a window, and then try to snap it and grip it and rip it, see if you can make something like that happen. So the improved pass concepts, we'll say, and also like 4 verts with Florida's receiving room. And also, I will say, we saw Hayden score a touchdown at the seam earlier, or in 2024. Could see again. He hit, I think it was like 21 miles per hour on the GPS last year. I'm just saying, let him run straight. 6'8", 260-ish, 21 miles per hour. Good luck stopping him. Just want to throw that one out there. Just gonna let that fly. But the passing concepts improving will, of course, help the quarterback. Also, an important part of the air raid is there's going to be more simple reads. And I don't mean that all the reads are simpler. I mean that there's going to be a higher quantity of simple reads. Whether it's pre-snap, what do you have? Okay, then you're looking for this. Simple as that. It's like pre-snap, they're playing too high there. Middle of the field is open. We're looking for a post from the slot. We're looking for a post from the slot. We got a guy on the outside running deep. Wherever safety goes, attack the other side. Like you can have things as simple as that. But making these reads simpler, that's going to be big for DJ Lagway. And I don't mean that to say that DJ can't make the full field reads. I don't mean to say that DJ can't make reads the way that Billy has typically done it. I know people go, oh, like there's guys running the same direction, but different depths of the field. Yeah, because Billy wants you to look into a window, see receivers running in which way, see where the window is, and then make that throw. Like he wants guys running generally in the same depth from the quarterback so that quarterback can see all of them at once, turn his head, figure it out there. Here, it's more going to be, hey, like this is the window right in front of you. It's mesh. Hit whoever's open. If it's zone, they're probably going to sit in the zone somewhere, hit them when they sit, whatever that may be. It's not to say that DJ can't make these reads. It's to say that anytime you have the opportunity as a coach to make your quarterback's job easier, then that is your job to make sure it happens, right? Like anytime you have the opportunity to make your quarterback's job easier, make your offense more efficient, more effective, then it's your job to make that happen. Okay? So that's what I mean with simpler reads. It's not that DJ can't make more complex reads. It's that if things are easier for him, great. Make things easier for him. Also, we can also talk about how there's going to be more spaced out formations, which means that quarterbacks' legs are more of a threat than usual, right? If you've got, let's say, 10 personnel, right? 1 running back, no tight ends, 4 receivers. I don't care where they are. It could be doubles, which is 2 on each side. It could be trips, which is 3 on one side, 1 on the other, wherever that may be. But could be that, regardless. Either way, it makes it easier for your quarterback to run because odds are that means that the box is going to open up. You can run QB draws, which we saw Mullen ran them all the time with Kyle Trask, right? He just ran QB power, QB blast, QB draw, everything. He would go empty backfield, and if you had a light box, he's running with the quarterback. Could easily see something like that from DJ Lagway. Could go 10 personnel, doubles, everybody spread out, and just run the option. Could do that. Like there's levels to this, but DJ Lagway has to be the guy that benefits the most. Secondly, receivers, specifically slot guys, right? Like first off, let's start with this. I mentioned 10 personnel probably going to be a thing. Great, I've been very open. I'm not a huge fan of 10 personnel. Not that I dislike it. I just like having a tight end on the field, at least one tight end on the field. I think that they could do a lot for you stylistically, give you a lot more versatility, but whatever. But 10 personnel would mean more wide receivers on the field. That alone, just the snap count increase helps, right? Like you benefit from that. Whether or not you're getting the ball, if you're on the field more, running routes more, you get to benefit from it. You get to then watch yourself run routes and improve upon it. You benefit just by the pure snap count. So let's say wide receivers should benefit from it because Russ will probably advocate for a bit more spread out offensive formations. Great. Fine. Could be 2 guys lined up on the inside, on like 1 on each side, trips on the same side. Could be whatever. Then we talk about the actual improvements made there with the routes that they are going to be running. Like I just thinking about Russ having a big say in the offense just makes me think mesh. Like again, I just think air raid style, what he did at Samford quite a bit. I look at mesh and I say, and if you don't, I'm sorry, I've been saying mesh and I have not explained what mesh is. So if you don't know what mesh is, there's receiver on each side in the slot usually, and they're just going to run drags. So just right behind the defensive line in front of the linebackers, they're going to run drags. Okay. And so when they're running these drags, if the defense is playing zone, then they'll just sit, right? They'll basically go like, let's say, above the offensive tackle. They could just sit, probably going to be in a soft spot between the zones where there's 2 or 3, sit right there, take the catch, run after that. I'm looking at guys like Trey Wilson, like Tank Hawkins, TJ Abrams, and Vernell Brown. And I'm looking at them, obviously the third. I'm looking at them in the slot running mesh, catch it and run against man, sit and squat against zone, catch and run them. And then on the outside, there's a lot of different variations of mesh. You can condense it and run corners. You can keep it wide and run post, keep it wide and run just straight deep and verts. You can do all those things. Michael Sturdivant, Dallas Wilson, Aiden Mizell, any combination of those three, and hell, throw Khalil Jackson in there and just let him be a jump ball guy. I'm fine with it. Any of them. Them on the outside with that speed underneath, then DJ Lagway and Jaden Ball in the backfield, RPO it. I don't care. You can do a ton. Okay? You got a lot of room to grow, a lot of room to work with. Could be huge. Like that's just, I just look at it, I'm like, all right, good luck, dude. Like good luck to the defense. Good luck figuring that one out. We are going to flip to basketball for the rest of the show. Don't worry. Like this week at some point, we'll probably break out the whiteboard and talk about some of these air raid concepts that could hopefully be introduced. Don't worry about that. But today, we're going to talk about this basketball team that took years off some people's life with just a first half performance when we get back with Locked On Gators. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip or you want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you could do that. You could stay in the action. In fact, I'm gonna talk about this because, like I mentioned, we're gonna talk about Florida and LSU. Florida was down at the half, and I decided to place a simple wager on them. That was they would still cover the 8.5-point spread that they had. So they were down 31-37 at the half. And I mean, you know what? I'm going to bet that they still covered the live spread at the time. Florida was still favored by 8.5. And I went and bet it. And then, of course, cashed because they won by 14. So still worked out in my favor. Love it. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free revis in the podcast and on YouTube. And to wrap up today's show, we're going to talk about the Florida Gators versus LSU game from Saturday evening, we'll say. That was wild. But also wasn't one where I think many people panicked, which it's nice to see, right? But it just didn't feel like a game where we needed to panic because even when you look at the insane run LSU went on, right? It was like a 20-2 run to end the first half. And then that run extended to like 26-4 to start the second half. And then Florida went on a run. But even with that, LSU's biggest lead at the end of that 26-4 run, LSU was up 8. And that was their biggest lead. With 18 minutes left, they were up 8 after dominating the past like 15 minutes. That's it. Like that to me just told me like Florida was going to win that game. Because LSU went on one of the strongest runs you're going to see. Like, there's not going to be many more dominant runs in SEC play than 26-4. That doesn't happen often, right? So looking at that and seeing, hey, you went on that crazy run, but you were still only up 8 because you were just getting outplayed before that. Like, if you break the game down into quarters, 10-minute quarters, 4 10-minute quarters, Florida outscored LSU in the first quarter 23-12. And that was just the flow of the game, right? Like that was just how they were playing basketball. That's it. It wasn't like, oh, run. It was just Florida beat the crap out of LSU that whole time. Second quarter, Florida lost it 8-25. That was LSU's big run. Third quarter, so the start of the second half, Florida outscored LSU 25-15, and then Florida played the fourth quarter 23-13. Again, we're breaking this into quarters. I know they play halves, but we're breaking this into quarters. So if you just, honestly, it's just that second quarter, LSU won by a lot. But everything else was Florida's the better team. Florida's winning here. Like Florida played, I can't express how piss poor Florida played during that time and for quite a bit of the game, right? But they were always in it. And if you're watching the game, like you can watch it and just say, this is uncharacteristic of Florida. And I know the commentators were like, oh, yeah, the consistency's always been a thing. No, that was uncharacteristically bad. It wasn't the typical, inconsistent stretch. It wasn't just like, this bad thing. That was uncharacteristically bad. That didn't even look like, early SEC play Florida. That didn't look like before they hit this insane hot stretch Florida. That was uncharacteristically bad. That was like Tennessee, the 20-point loss to Tennessee. It's like that was uncharacteristically bad. And Florida was always in it, never trailed more than 8, and was leading for most of the time, right? But you need that game to be a wake-up call if you're Florida, okay? You can't have the mindset as a team of, yeah, horrible game, but we still won by 14. Like, we're that good. You can't have that mindset. Because and as a fan, sure, go ahead. Like, as a fan, I can hang my hat and say, they played a horrible game and they still won by 14. Like, that's big. I could say that as a fan. You can say that as a fan. If you're a Florida basketball fan, you could say that as a fan. But as the team, you have that mindset. As the actual Gators basketball team, you can't have the mindset of, we played horrible and still won by 14. We're that good. Because that's how you sleepwalk into an upset. Like that's how you sleepwalk into, they punched us in the mouth, we got too confident, and then we never rebounded from it. So as a team, can't have that mindset. As fans, we can have that mindset. But I have 2 huge issues with the game versus LSU, okay? First off, and I'm just going offense and defense. Offensively, we saw a ton of the dribble without purpose nonsense that like we've seen before, but I think that against LSU, we saw it more than we've seen it in the past, which is why I said it's uncharacteristically inconsistent. Like we've seen it happen in Florida where a few possessions or a few minutes, we see them do that dribble without purpose stuff and they snap out of it. But against LSU, it felt like they did that a lot. Like it felt like there was that possession versus LSU where Florida turned it over 3 times in a row. And it was like what started the run. Florida turned it over 3 times in a row. LSU, or not what started the run, but what gave LSU the lead. Florida turned it over 3 times in a row. LSU been on their big run. And usually that's been the time where Florida kind of snaps out of it. This time that didn't happen. This time they just went, okay, well, we're just going to do this again and hope that it works. And they kind of just put themselves in a shell of dribble without purpose nonsense. We've seen that before. Again, I don't think to this extent, which is why I think that this game was uncharacteristically bad there. Dribble pickups. If you're part of the subtext group, the Insider program, you were getting messages from me during the game about this because it was driving me nuts. If you're not part of the Insider program, join it. Go ahead. The games are for feelings, right? Dribble pickups are driving me crazy because, and Elijah Martin was the main culprit of it. Did it a few times where he would pick up his dribble, and it's not even him that I'm more annoyed at. It's everybody else on the basketball court. Because Elijah Martin would pick up his dribble, and what would happen is the rest of the team just kind of standing there. Like, he can't do anything. He's picked up the dribble. Someone has to go get the ball from him. And instead, they left him stranded. And he would be standing there for like 7 seconds, just with the ball, can't do anything. The only option he had would be to just heave up a shot, right? Because he was in a spot where he couldn't do anything with the ball. And the rest of the team was just standing there. And it was driving me crazy to just watch them stand there and just look at him and see he can't do anything. And they're still just standing there like, do you think he's just going to make the cross-court pass and it's going to be perfectly fine? You think he's just going to heave up a shot? Like, I don't know what you wanted to happen, but offensively, that can't happen. First off, I get it. You're not supposed to pick up your dribble unless you have an open man or you're going to shoot, whatever it may be. I get it. You're not supposed to pick up your dribble. That's fine. But once you pick up your dribble or once your teammate picks up his dribble, You need to go get the ball. He might have made a mistake, but you didn't help him fix it. And that's the part that's driving me nuts. And we've talked about this with football too, right? Like, oh yeah, this guy might have made this mistake earlier, but no one helped him fix it. No one helped him get out of it. And that's just not how you win, right? Like, that's not how that works. That's bad. And so that was one thing that offensively can't happen. Defensively, a couple things. One, they need to adjust sooner. I feel like LSU went out there with a pretty decent game plan, right? For a lot of the time, LSU went out there, they spaced, they went 5 out for a bit. And especially when Florida did their 4-guard lineup, LSU would space, draw the center to the top of the key, and pass, shoot, whatever it may be. But the center is up at the top of the key. And that would leave LSU's wings and bigs to go for boards against Florida's guards. And that wasn't working out for Florida. And we saw that quite a few times, okay? It was Ruben Chinyelu had to go out up top. We saw Micah Hanlogton had to go out up top. And then LSU puts up a shot. And who's getting the rebound there? It's Walter Clayton versus LSU's 3. Like that's what you're getting. And it's just that's not a good matchup for Florida. Because it's not just about getting a defensive rebound, it's about preventing an offensive rebound. We know how valuable offensive rebounds are. We talk about it all the time on this show. We talk about all the time how Todd Golden will live and die with analytics. And analytics tell you offensive rebounds are incredibly important. Okay? And those, also, we will say, one of the best times to get an open 3 is off an offensive rebound. And so LSU is spacing, getting the shot up, and by the time Florida's bigs could get back down into rebounding position, LSU got the ball again. And look, Florida won the offensive rebounding battle. They won the rebounding battle. They did all that, sure. But for a long stretch of time where Florida wasn't adjusting, that's what LSU was doing. Also, the amount of times that we saw wild rotations was just mind-boggling to me. The amount of times I saw Walter Clayton Jr. rotate down into the paint for help defense against a big and leave the wing and corner wide open was insane. And I don't blame Walter Clayton Jr. for that. I think that's a lose-lose situation, right? You're either a guard defending a big and leaving a shooter open, or you're a guard that doesn't rotate down and gives them wide open layups and dunks. Like, that's a lose-lose situation for him. He shouldn't be put in that position. That's my issue. He shouldn't be put in that spot. And LSU did it quite a few times where they were taking advantage of that. And it took too long for Florida to adjust, is my critique from my couch. And so that's where I sit on it. But hey, Florida, still the best team in the country. I don't care about the rankings. Still the best team in the country. It's almost March. Going to be in for a good one. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.